Welcome, everybody, and thanks for attending. Just going to mention that we've got a couple board members on here for class. I think what we'll do is we'll just quickly say hi. I'm co-president Scott Olson. John
Slade, co-president, work with the Metropolitan Interfaith Council on Affordable Housing.
Katie.
I'm Katie Everett. I'm the recreation supervisor with the City of Venice Heights.
Kate.
Kate's Musical Memories, secretary for class.
Allie.
I am Allie Lucan. I'm board member. I am the recreation coordinator for the City of Lino Lakes.
And Allie is going to be helping out today. She has graciously stepped up to be part of an assist with myself and John for some of our events that we have online. So thank you, Allie. Did you have anything that you wanted to mention today? Well, before we get started, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, I guess the big question is do we want to just do since there's only 10 of us, do we want to break out into small groups, or do we want to keep it as one big larger group since there's only 10 of us?
yeah, why don't we, as we kind of go through a few things here, John's going to talk a little bit, and then maybe by that time, we'll see if there's a few more that join us, and then we can make that decision from there. If we have 3 or 4 more that come, then maybe go into a breakout would make sense. So, well, we were going to have our initial speaker talking on some of the legislative things that were coming into play. And unfortunately, she's not able to join us today. She had to leave. It's Christine with Elder Voice. And in her place, John was going to mention a few things, I think. And, you know, now that we've got Commissioner Victoria Reinhardt here, maybe there's a few tidbits of info that we could have out there as well before we went into our networking piece. So, John, should I turn it over to you here? This is usually what we have as our first 10 minutes is an invited speaker to come in on a little bit of a topic, and then we go into our networking. So between John and Victoria, if we could have 10 minutes, great.
Good. Well, we can. I know that we roll with things, and so I'll say super briefly what MICA is and what brought us here. The Metropolitan Interfaith Council on Affordable Housing is MICA and has had a presence in White Bear Lake, Matamidi, Stillwater, kind of Hugo area for about 20 years. We believe that in a Twin Cities area where everyone, without exception, has a safe, decent, accessible, and affordable home. This put us directly in connection with senior needs because of the senior housing needs. There are things like the Piccadilly, which is an affordable senior project in Matamidi that MICA supported. And so also, just as MICA is mostly faith-based and a coalition of churches and housing advocates and folks that support that, we know that work gets done in coalition. And for a lot of us and for Christine at Elder Voice, a lot of when we want to lift up what we need, we often find that we do it in partnership with our friends and allies. So Elder Voice Family Advocates has been around and done some really great work on care needs for seniors, on raising standards, and has done does do state legislative work. So one of the things, since a lot of organizations are nonprofit, there is kind of a, well, can we even talk about public policy? And you can always talk about the programs that you need. You can always talk about educating folks on what your needs are, as long as you pay attention to the amount of time that you are advocating for specific bills, and generally, as long as you don't advocate for specific elected officials. I can say that at MICA this year, and this actually relates to what Christine would say. There were a lot of affordable housing and senior needs that had been got all the way almost to the finish line in the legislature, but then the decision that to not push that over the finish line had really put a lot of folks at a disadvantage. This is the first line that Christine had was, I would have just pointed out the legislature accomplished very little. She was focusing in the long-term care area. One thing that did get passed was a $750 frontline worker bonus. This had been at the legislature for a while. In one session had kind of gotten tossed up between folks that wanted a very limited, and this is all, I worked through COVID. A lot of you guys are dealing with senior services. A lot of you were dealing with like exceptionally necessary frontline work. And so that was approved, but the pool of 500 million that got set out is going to be split far more ways than people thought. And this is from Chris's email. She said that they were planning on 670 people to apply, and more than just less than 1 million have applied for that frontline worker bonus. And so if anybody has any more information on that, we would absolutely love to hear it. It's going to be, there's going to be some time and income requirements. Folks are going to take a look at that. And then folks are going to get a chunk. It's not probably enough for all of the work and the risk that people took to serve the elder community, the folks in the elder community. But it is certainly better than nothing. In our realm, the affordable housing realm, there were decent proposals in the omnibus bills that would have built more affordable housing, that would have supported rental assistance. But once again, those all got caught up at the end of the session. The log jam that kind of became a permanent dam. Many times, because we've got the two-party system, or we have two parties that control most of our legislature, they take it right up to the point, and then there's this very hard negotiation that happens kind of in closed rooms. Then something comes forward. This year it did not. Something comes forward part didn't happen. Another thing that Christine had is that staffing issues in her world and in the elder world, she said, continue to be at a crisis level. And I'm seeing Lynn Ammon shaking her head. One of the things, and this I'm kind of skipping around, Micah has monthly chapter meetings, which are on the second Tuesday of the month. We just had ours. We heard from the St. Andrews Resource Center. We heard from Solid Ground. We heard from the folks that are running some of the volunteer shelters, senior family shelters. And they're saying there is a lot of need right now, that in our housing world, the affordable housing world, we had COVID, we had a foreclosure and eviction moratorium that said, okay, nobody's doing things normally. You can't kick people out. You got to hold on to people. That has passed. And so now, not only there are some evictions happening for people that either couldn't access the rent help, there was some rent help, but it wasn't available to everybody. And also the rent help ran out. So there are people, and this is what the director, Carlos Ganchoff at the St. Andrews Community Resource Center said, is they have people coming with back rent in not only the $3,000 and $4,000 level, but $10,000 of back rent. And specific to housing, what we're finding or what they're hearing is people won't get evicted, but they won't get renewed. So you were behind 4 months out of 24 in the last 2 years. And we're not renewing you. And so now people have to go out into the world with that COVID record on their rental history. So specifically in the area of rental and rent support, we're finding big gaps. And for frontline workers and frontline services, there once again were a number of things that were proposed that didn't make it over the finish line. There are upcoming elections, and this is what Chris points out. In every even year, all of the state representatives get reelected, and is it a half of the state senate? This is something that's very real at our level. The Lake Area Senior, the Coalition of Lake Area, or the consortium, the class footprint puts us in the suburbs. We have Republicans and Democrats. So there are folks that you guys deal with on both sides of the aisle. And so if you can get communication with candidates, if you can say, I need this type of healthcare worker to be have a higher state support for that, or I need this language change regarding, the billability of transport. Go to your candidates, and we're not going to advocate one candidate or another, but we're going to say you need to go out and advocate for your issues and your candidates.
John,
and that was about it. Yes, Victoria.
John, I just wanted to note that because of redistricting, everyone is up this year.
Okay. Yep.
It's new districts, and so whoever your senator or representative was probably isn't now. And so do some research on it. This is, as you said, it is a critical year for a lot of different issues. And please get to know who is running in your area, and knowing what we care about here. I think that the differences are going to be pretty stark, more so than they've ever been in any other year. I think we've seen that at the national level and at every level of government. If you don't live in Ramsey County, your county commissioner may be up who normally isn't. In Ramsey County, our lines changed, but it didn't make someone run that wasn't already running, only because we are fully developed, and we are the only county in the state of Minnesota that is considered fully developed. And so we did not have to make any changes, went through a process for that. So even at your local level, redistricting affected every single elected office. And in some cases it changed a lot. In some cases, people that weren't running, didn't need to run, are, such as in the Senate. So it's a critical time. And I do have an additional update on the legislative, if you'd like me to. You maybe noticed, well, you maybe noticed that I was like, okay, I've got all this information. I've got it printed out so I can see it here. So that's what I was doing while listening to you. And so I'm going to focus in on the Health and Human Services, which is probably the biggest thing. First of all, I'll start with what was left on the table. The continuum of care, homeless shelter support request. Now we do have in the governor's basically supplemental or recommendations budget. Now I'm trying to remember how many million it was. We were included in that request, and that is in process. It does have to go through a legislative committee, and hopefully we will get the money. I mean, it's millions of dollars that would take us through at least this year and hopefully next winter, because we ran out of money, and that it's as simple as that. And so did other folks. And to see them in agreement and running out of time, was heartbreaking, as you all know. So the public health system transformation, public health emergency preparedness, family home visiting. I'm trying to see some of the things. There was some where they shift cost to counties, and that means that we have less money to spend elsewhere. I think that was the ones that would affect here. One of the things that was interesting in our legislative update was, did anything pass? You know, and so there were 68 bills that were passed and signed by the governor. That sounds good. Out of 4,290 introduced in 2022. That's what passed. I can tell you, and I'm going to try to skip around here a little bit because there are things that don't necessarily, I mean, I know that you care about all the things that happen at the legislature, but the immediate impact. The mental health omnibus bill. There were a number of things that that in some ways it didn't happen. The criteria for mental health services and potential cuts that were there, they were not changed. It did not happen. And so no AMHI cut, which was important. Temporary hospital moratorium exemption for mental health hospitals. Children, let's see here. The others are more for kids. The HHS minibus, the cost of care for the Ramsey County Attorney's Office. Let's see, mental health data sharing with law enforcement, SNAP eligibility, opioid, substance abuse and addiction, sub-cabinet and advisory council. Let's see here. There, you already mentioned the frontline worker bonus pay and unemployment insurance. The opioid settlement, even though it doesn't necessarily seem like it is directly related to class, actually does, you know, it's funds that have been agreed to and are going forward. Ramsey County will receive approximately 15.8 million. This is one-time money, so it's not used for ongoing things. We're very careful about that because we're not going to pay our rent out of our savings account, and just making sure that we get those things in place. But it does mean that it frees up additional funds for other things. In that case, it must be used to address the impacts of the opioid crisis. But as we know, even with seniors, there are addiction issues that we need to deal with. The Pigs Eye Landfill Task Force, I'm very proud of that, but it has nothing to do with class. Trying to take care of the Mississippi River after admiring a problem where we've got 2 landfills that were built in the river basin. Really? So anyhow, we're talking things that are 50 to 70 years old and finally trying to figure out what to do about it. So I worked really hard on that one. The Veterans Omnibus Bill, again, that can have an impact. $1.7 million for temporary alternative housing options for homeless veterans and former service members, which is a positive, obviously. The $5.4 million for assistance to veterans and former service members and their families who are homeless or in danger of homelessness. And okay, and then just again, kind of starting or ending where I started, was that every legislative seat and the governor and all the offices are up for re-election. Redistricting redrew the legislative maps. 47 out of 201 legislators are not running again. So again, even if your district didn't change all that much, odds are you've got somebody new that's running. And then there are some that are running for different seats, including 4 legislators that are running for county commissioner seats across the state. So I think they see where the rubber meets the road, and especially in health and human services, and is at the county level. So do look at that as well. Next session begins January 3rd, 2023, and it's a budgeting year. And the surplus money, and this is one thing that's important for this group too, I think, the surplus money that's not spent this year rolls over. So hopefully we'll get some things done. We also may have, and keep our fingers crossed, or I guess crossed, some people have stated that the primary, there may be a special session after the primary for specific purposes, because unfortunately it's, even after an agreement was made, and I think this is important to note, and I mean, it's not really political, but it's the fact. After an agreement was made, when they came back together to actually vote on it, the Republicans said, no, we're not agreeing to it. We could have had these things. So, but we don't. So now we'll see what happens here. Hopefully we'll get something, because the need is there, the agreement was there, and we need to do some things. And then just one last shout out. We need to do something about guns, period. It's ridiculous what's happening. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. But if you have any questions, I can, if I don't have the answers to them as far as legislative and what's happening in this area, I can probably get the answers for you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt, and thank you, John, for filling in a little bit there too. So, well, Ally, is it time to turn it over to you for our breakout sessions here? You maybe walk through a little bit of what we have planned, and then I can prep. Looks like we have 13, including me, and I'm going to roam through the different rooms here. So should we have 4 in a group or 3 in a group? Katie?
Don't count Katie.
Sorry, yeah, I'm gonna buzz out of here. I will put a note in the chat that if any class members want to provide information or giveaways for our senior picnic in August, we are accepting those through the first Friday. So I'll put a little note in there, and then I'm gonna buzz out of here.
I also wanted to highlight Kate's note that she put in. That's the Elder Voice Family Advocates How to Advocate link. So if you haven't done it before and you want to get some good information, that's a good link as well.
Excellent. Well, what we normally do at this time before we get into the networking part, we do just a little bit of breakout sessions. Ally, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what we're going to do, but should we have groups of 3 or 4? What would you like, folks?
Either way.
Anyone else having to leave early? Groups of 4 it is. In case somebody does leave early. So go ahead, Ally.
Okay, so I know we typically seem to use the same questions. And so I'm trying to just switch it up a little bit. I feel like I have talked to a lot of you, but at the same point, I feel like when we talk, we don't always get to see some of that personal side of us. So I have questions that are similar to what we typically talk about, but they have a little bit of a personal touch to it, make it a little bit more fun. And so I had to figure out how to, oh, there's my screen sharing. Where did it go? Where is it? Oh, I figure that out. Shouldn't be this hard, right? Okay, well, obviously we know I'm not very good at this all of a sudden today. Nope,
Now it's
that's not
coming.
what I wanted.
No.
No, I just want,
You got to
go
the
for it.
sharing part. You just
I know, but where did I don't know where all you went now. You guys all disappeared too. So how do you like them apples? All
You'll
right,
have to unshare if you want to get a different screen. There you go.
okay. Let's see. I had too many things open as part of our issue. Okay, now let's try this. So in lieu of all the recent shootings that have been going on, we have been talking a lot here, and some of our community members have been talking about, what are we doing? How are we protecting them in a sense? So I thought that maybe we would kind of look at it from that standpoint. Let's see if I can do this again now. Okay, there. Can you see my questions?
There we go.
Perfect. So like I said, I tried to first question is like, what is your favorite meal and why? Trying to get people to know you on a more of a personal level. And then just kind of touching base on some things that we're doing differently now. What are you doing? How are you looking at things? And then is any of this stuff kind of affecting you personally? And then to wrap it up, if you could eat one type of food every day for the rest of your life, what would it be? You know, just something different. So I feel like sometimes we get into some of these meetings in life, and I feel like things get so focused on work that we kind of forget to take a look at ourselves and have a little fun in life. And I'm part of recreation, and that's part of my job, is to make sure that we are recreating ourselves and always having fun. So I think that's it. I think we're good then, Scott.
Excellent, Ally. Thanks for getting that started there. So I've got 3 breakout rooms that I'm setting up, and these are just automatically done. So I have no idea who's going to get together, but I will bounce back and forth. And it is 9 o'clock now. Why don't we let's take 15 minutes, because I think there's enough time afterwards for all of us to do our quick 2 to 3 minute networking at the end. So if we're okay with that, I'm going to hit the create button right now, and let's go out and have some fun.